The Journey to the West. 9. Chen Guangrui, going to his post, meets disaster monk river float, avenging his parents, repays his roots. We now tell you about the city of Chang'an in the great nation's Shanxi province, which was the place that kings and emperors from generation to generation had made their capital. Since the periods of Zhou, Qin, and Han, 3 counties of flowers bloomed like brocade, and 8 rivers flowed encircling the city. It was truly a land of great scenic beauty. At this time, the Emperor Taizong of the Great Tang Dynasty was on the throne, and the name of his reign was Zhengguan. He had been ruling now for 13 years, and the cyclical name of the year was Jisi. The whole land was at peace. People came bearing tributes from 8 directions, and the inhabitants of the whole world called themselves his subjects. One day, Taizong ascended his throne and assembled his civil and military officials. After they had paid him homage, the Prime Minister Wei Zheng left the ranks and came forward to memorialize to the throne, saying, "Since the world now is at peace and tranquility reigns everywhere, we should follow the ancient custom and establish sites for civil examinations, so that we may invite worthy scholars to come here and select those talents who will best serve the work of administration and government. Our worthy subject has voiced a sound principle in his memorial," said Taizong. He therefore issued a summons to be proclaimed throughout the empire. In every prefecture, county, and town, those who were learned in the Confucian classics, who could write with ease and lucidity, and who had passed the 3 sessions of examination, regardless of whether they were soldiers or peasants, would be invited to go to Chang'an to take the imperial examination. This summons reached the place Haizhu, where it was seen by a certain man named Chen A, with the courtesy name of Guangrui, who then went straight home to talk to his mother, whose maiden name was Zhang. "The court," he said, "has sent a yellow summons, declaring in these southern provinces that there will be examinations for the selection of the worthy and the talented. Your child wishes to try out at such an examination, for if I manage to acquire an appointment, or even half a post, I would become more of a credit to my parents, magnify our name, give my wife a title, benefit my son, and bring glory to this house of ours. Such is the aspiration of your son. I wish to tell my mother plainly before I leave." "My son," said she of the Zhang family, "an educated person, learns when he is young, but leaves when he is grown. You should indeed follow this maxim. But as you go to the examination, you must be careful on the way, and when you have secured a post, come home quickly." So Guangrui gave instructions for his family page to pack his bags, took leave of his mother, and began his journey. When he reached Chang'an, the examination site had just been opened, and he went straight in. He took the preliminary tests, passed them, and went to the court examination, where in 3 sessions on administrative policy, he took first place, receiving the title Zhuangyuan, the certificate of which was signed by the Tang Emperor's own hand. As was the custom, he was led through the streets on horseback for 3 days. The procession at one point passed by the house of the chief minister, Yin Kaishan, who had a daughter named Wenjiao, nicknamed Mantangjiao, a hall of loveliness. She was not yet married, and at this time, she was just about to throw down an embroidered ball from high up on a festooned tower in order to select her spouse. It happened that Chen Guangrui was passing below the tower. When the young maiden saw Guangrui's outstanding appearance, and knew that he was the recent Zhuangyuan of the examinations, she was very pleased. She threw down the embroidered ball, which just happened to hit the black gauze hat of Guangrui. Immediately, Lively music of pipes and flutes could be heard throughout the area, as scores of maids and serving girls ran down from the tower, took hold of the bridle of Guangrui's horse, and led him into the residence of the chief minister for the wedding. The chief minister and his wife at once came out of their chambers, called together the guests and the master of ceremonies, and gave the girl to Guangrui as his bride. Together they bowed to heaven and earth. Then husband and wife bowed to each other, before bowing to the father and mother-in-law. The chief minister then gave a big banquet, and everyone feasted merrily for a whole evening, after which the two of them walked hand in hand into the bridal chamber. At the 5th watch early next morning, Taizong took his seat in the treasure hall of golden chimes as civil and military officials attended the court. Taizong asked, "What appointment should the new Zhuang Yuan receive?" The Prime Minister Wei Zheng said, "Your subject has discovered that within our territory there is a vacancy at Zhangzhou. I beg my lord to grant him this post." Taizong at once made him governor of Zhangzhou and ordered him to leave without delay. After thanking the emperor and leaving the court, Guangrui went back to the house of the chief minister to inform his wife. He took leave of his father and mother-in-law and proceeded with his wife to the new post at Zhangzhou. As they left Chang'an and went on their journey, the season was late spring. A soft wind blew to green the willows. A fine rain spotted to redden the flowers. As his home was on the way, Guangrui returned to his house where husband and wife bowed together to his mother, Lady Zhang. "Congratulations, my son," said she of the Zhang family. "You even came back with a wife." "Your child," said Guangrui, "relied on the power of your blessing and was able to attain the undeserved honor of Zhuang Yuan. By imperial command, I was making a tour of the streets when, as I passed by the mansion of Chief Minister Yin, I was hit by an embroidered ball. The Chief Minister kindly gave his daughter to your child to be his wife, and His Majesty appointed him governor of Zhangzhou. I have returned to take you with me to the post." She of the Zhang family was delighted and packed at once for the journey.
They had been on the road for a few Xuanzang.
10,000 flowers, kept by a certain Liu Xiao'er. She of the Zhang family suddenly became ill and said to Guangrui, "I don't feel well at all. Let's rest here for a day or two before we journey again." Guangrui obeyed. Next morning, there was a man outside the inn holding a golden carp for sale, which Guangrui bought for a string of coins. He was about to have it cooked for his mother, when he saw that the carp was blinking its eyes vigorously. In astonishment, Guangrui said, "I have heard that when a fish or a snake blinks its eyes in this manner, that's the sure sign that it's not an ordinary creature." He therefore asked the fisherman, "Where did you catch this fish?" "I caught it," said the fisherman, "from the River Hong, some 15 miles from this district." Accordingly, Guangrui sent the live fish back to the river and returned to the inn to tell his mother about it. "It is a good deed to release living creatures from captivity," said she of the Zhang family. "I am very pleased." "We have stayed in this inn now for 3 days," said Guangrui. "The imperial command is an urgent one. Your child intends to leave tomorrow, but he would like to know whether mother has fully recovered." She of the Zhang family said, "I'm still not well, and the heat on the journey at this time of year, I fear, will only add to my illness. Why don't you rent a house for me to stay here temporarily and leave me an allowance? The two of you can proceed to your new post. By autumn, when it's cool, you can come fetch me." Guangrui discussed the matter with his wife. They duly rented a house for her and left some cash with her, after which they took leave and left. They felt the fatigue of traveling, journeying by day and resting by night. And they soon came to the crossing of the Hong River, where two boatmen, Liu Hong and Li Biao, took them into their boat. It happened that Guangrui was destined in his previous incarnation to meet this calamity, and so he had to come upon these fated enemies of his. After ordering the houseboy to put the luggage on the boat, Guangrui and his wife were just about to embark when Liu Hong noticed the beauty of Lady Yin, who had a face like a full moon, eyes like autumnal water, a small, cherry-like mouth, and a tiny, willow-like waist. Her features were striking enough to sink fishes and drop wild geese, and her complexion would cause the moon to hide and put the flowers to shame. Stirred at once to cruelty, he plotted with Li Biao. Together they punted the boat to an isolated area and waited until the middle of the night. They killed the houseboy first, and then they beat Guangrui to death, pushing both bodies into the water. When the lady saw that they had killed her husband, she made a dive for the water, but Liu Hong threw his arms around her and caught her. "If you consent to my demand," he said, "everything will be all right. If you do not, this knife will cut you in two." Unable to think of any better plan, the lady had to give her consent for the time being and yielded herself to Liu Hong. The thief took the boat to the south bank, where he turned the boat over to the care of Li Biao. He himself put on Guangrui's cap and robe, took his credentials, and proceeded with the lady to the post at Zhengzhou. We should now tell you that the body of the houseboy, killed by Liu Hong, drifted away with the current. The body of Chen Guangrui, however, sank to the bottom of the water and stayed there. A yaks on patrol at the mouth of the Hong River saw it and rushed into the Dragon Palace. The Dragon King was just holding court when the yaks entered to report, saying, "A scholar has been beaten to death at the mouth of the Hong River by some unknown person, and his body is now lying at the bottom of the water." The Dragon King had the corpse brought in and laid before him. He took a careful look at it and said, "But this man was my benefactor. How could he have been murdered? As the common saying goes, kindness should be paid by kindness. I must save his life today, so that I may repay the kindness of yesterday." He at once issued an official dispatch, sending a yaks to deliver it to the municipal deity and local spirit of Hongzhou, and asked for the soul of the scholar, so that his life might be saved. The municipal deity and the local spirit in turn ordered the little demons to hand over the soul of Chen Guangrui to the yaks, who led the soul back to the Water Crystal Palace for an audience with the Dragon King. "Scholar?" asked the Dragon King. "What is your name? Where did you come from? Why did you come here? And for what reason were you beaten to death?" Guangrui saluted him and said, "This lowly student is named Chen A, and my courtesy name is Guangrui. I am from the Hongnong district of Haizhou. As the unworthy Zhuang Yuan of the recent session of examination, I was appointed by the court to be governor of Zhengzhou, and I was going to my post with my wife. When I took a boat at the river, I did not expect the boatman, Liu Hong, to covet my wife and plot against me. He beat me to death and tossed out my body. I beg the great king to save me." Hearing these words, the Dragon King said, "So, that's it? Good sir, the golden carp that you released earlier was myself. You are my benefactor. You may be in dire difficulty at the moment, but is there any reason why I should not come to your assistance?" He therefore laid the body of Guangrui to one side, and put a preservative pearl in his mouth, so that his body would not deteriorate, but be reunited with his soul to avenge himself in the future. He also said, "Your true soul may remain temporarily in my water bureau as an officer." Guangrui kowtowed to thank him, and the Dragon King prepared a banquet to entertain him. But we shall say no more about that. We now tell you that Lady Yin hated the bandit Liu so bitterly that she wished she could devour his flesh and sleep on his skin. But because she was with child and did not know whether it would be a boy or a girl, she had no alternative but to yield reluctantly to her captor. In a little while, they arrived at Jiangzhou. The clerks and the lictors all came to meet them, and all the subordinate officials gave a banquet for them at the governor's mansion. Liu Hong said, "Having come here, a student like me is utterly dependent on the support and assistance of you gentlemen." "Your honor," replied the officials, "is first in the examinations and a major talent. You will, of course, regard your people as your children. Your public declarations will be as simple as your settlement of litigation is fair. We subordinates are all dependent on your leadership, so why should you be unduly modest?" When the official banquet ended, the people all left. Time passed by swiftly. One day, Liu Hong went far away on official business, while Lady Yin at the mansion was thinking of her mother-in-law and her husband, and sighing in the garden pavilion. Suddenly she was seized by tremendous fatigue and sharp pains in her belly. Falling unconscious to the ground, she gave birth to a son. Presently she heard someone whispering in her ear, "Mantang Jiao, listen carefully to what I have to say. I am the star spirit of South Pole, who sends you this son by the express command of the Bodhisattva Guanyin. One day his name will be known far and wide, for he is not to be compared with an ordinary mortal. But when the bandit Liu returns, he will surely try to harm the child, and you must take care to protect him. Your husband has been rescued by the Dragon King. In the future, both of you will meet again, even as son and mother will be reunited. A day will come when wrongs will be redressed and crimes punished. Remember my words. Wake up! Wake up!" The voice ceased and departed. The lady woke up and remembered every word. She clasped her son tightly to her, but could devise no plan to protect him. Liu Hong then returned and wanted to have the child killed by drowning the moment he saw him. The lady said, "Today it's late already. Allow him to live till tomorrow and then have him thrown into the river." It was fortunate that Liu Hong was called away by urgent business the next morning. The lady thought to herself, "If this child is here when that bandit returns, his life is finished. I might as well abandon him now to the river and let life or death take its own course. Perhaps heaven, taking pity on him, will send someone to his rescue, and to have him cared for. Then, we may have a chance to meet again." She was afraid, however, that future recognition would be difficult. So she bit her finger and wrote a letter with her blood, stating in detail the names of the parents, the family history, and the reason for the child's abandonment. She also bit off a little toe from the child's left foot to establish a mark of his identity. Taking one of her own inner garments, she wrapped the child and took him out of the mansion when no one was watching. Fortunately, the mansion was not far from the river. Reaching the bank, the lady burst into tears and wailed long and loud. She was about to toss the child into the river when she caught sight of a plank floating by the riverbank. At once, she prayed to heaven, after which she placed the child on the plank and tied him securely to it with some rope. She fastened the letter written in blood to his chest, pushed the plank out into the water, and let it drift away. With tears in her eyes, the lady went back to the mansion. But we shall say no more of that. Now, we shall tell you about the boy on the plank, which floated with the current until it came to a standstill just beneath the temple of Gold Mountain. The abbot of this temple was called Monk Faming. In the cultivation of perfection and comprehension of truth, he had attained already the wondrous secret of birthlessness. He was sitting in meditation when all at once he heard an infant crying. Moved by this, he went quickly down to the river to have a look, and discovered the baby lying there on a plank at the edge of the water. The abbot quickly lifted him out of the water. When he read the letter in blood fastened to his chest, he learned of the child's origin. He then gave him the baby name River Float, and arranged for someone to nurse and care for him, while he himself kept the letter written in blood safely hidden. Time passed by like an arrow, and the seasons like a weaver's shuttle. River Float soon reached his 18th year. The abbot had his hair shaved and asked him to join in the practice of austerities, giving him the religious name Xuanzang. Having had his head touched and having received the commandments, Xuanzang pursued the way with great determination. One day in late spring, the various monks gathered in the shade of pine trees were discussing the canons of Chan and debating the fine points of the mysteries. One feckless monk, who happened to have been completely outwitted by Xuanzang's questions, shouted angrily, "You damnable beast! You don't even know your own name, and you are ignorant of your own parents. Why are you still hanging around here playing tricks on people?" When Xuanzang heard such language of rebuke, he went into the temple and knelt before the master, saying with tears flowing from his eyes, "Though a human being born into this world receives his natural endowments from the forces of yin and yang, and from the 5 phases, he is always nurtured by his parents. How can there be a person in this world who has no father or mother?" Repeatedly and piteously, he begged for the names of his parents. The abbot said, "If you truly wish to seek your parents, you may follow me to my cell." Xuanzang duly followed him to his cell, where, from the top of a heavy crossbeam, the abbot took down a small box. Opening the box, he took out a letter written in blood and an inner garment, and gave them to Xuanzang. Only after he had unfolded the letter and read it did Xuanzang learn the names of his parents, and understand in detail the wrongs that had been done them. When Xuanzang finished reading, he fell weeping to the floor, saying, "How can anyone be worthy to bear the name of man if he cannot avenge the wrongs done to his parents? For 18 years, I have been ignorant of my true parents, and only this day have I learned that I have a mother. And yet, would I have even reached this day if my master had not saved me and cared for me? Permit your disciple to go seek my mother. Thereafter, I will rebuild this temple with an incense bowl on my head and repay the profound kindness of my teacher. If you desire to seek your mother," said the master, "you may take this letter in blood and the inner garment with you. Go as a mendicant monk to the private quarters at the governor's mansion of Jiangzhou. You will then be able to meet your mother." Xuanzang followed the words of his master and went to Jiangzhou as a mendicant monk. It happened that Liu Hong was out on business, for heaven had planned that mother and child should meet. Xuanzang went straight to the door of the private quarters of the governor's mansion to beg for alms. Lady Yin, you see, had had a dream the night before, in which she saw a waning moon become full again. She thought to herself, "I have no news from my mother-in-law. My husband was murdered by this bandit. My son was thrown into the river. If, by chance, someone rescued him and had him cared for, he must be 18 by now. Perhaps heaven wished us to be reunited today. Who can tell? As she was pondering the matter in her heart, she suddenly heard someone reciting the scriptures outside her residence and crying repeatedly, "Alms, alms." At a convenient moment, the lady slipped out and asked him, "Where did you come from?" "Your poor monk," said Xuanzang, "is the disciple of Faming, abbot of the Temple of Gold Mountain." "So you are the disciple of the abbot of that temple?" she asked, and invited him into the mansion and served him some vegetables and rice. Watching him closely, she noticed that in speech and manner, he bore a remarkable resemblance to her husband. The lady sent her maid away, and then asked, "Young master, did you leave your family as a child or when you grew up? What are your given name and your surname? Do you have any parents?" "I did not leave my family when I was young," replied Xuanzang, "nor did I do so when I grew up. To tell you the truth, I have a wrong to avenge great as the sky, an enmity deep as the sea. My father was a murder victim, and my mother was taken by force. My master, the abbot Faming, told me to seek my mother in the governor's mansion of Jiangzhou." "What is your mother's surname?" asked the lady. "My mother's surname is Yin," said Xuanzang, "and her given name is Wenjiao. My father's surname is Chen, and his given name is Guangrui. My nickname is River Float, but my religious name is Xuanzang." "I am Wenjiao," said the lady. "But what proof have you of your identity?" When Xuanzang heard that she was his mother, he fell to his knees and wept most grievously. "If my own mother doesn't believe me," he said, "you may see the proof in this letter written in blood and this inner garment." Wen Jiao took them in her hands, and one look told her that they were the real things. Mother and child embraced each other and wept. Lady Yin then cried, "My son, leave at once." "For 18 years I have not known my true parents," said Xuanzang, "and I've seen my mother for the first time only this morning. How could your son bear so swift a separation?" "My son," said the lady, "leave at once, as if you were on fire. If that bandit Liu returns, he will surely take your life. I shall pretend to be ill tomorrow, and say that I must go to your temple and fulfill a vow I made in a previous year, to donate 100 pairs of monk shoes. At that time, I shall have more to say to you." Xuanzang followed her bidding and bowed to take leave of her. We were speaking of Lady Yin, who, having seen her son, was filled with both anxiety and joy. The next day, under the pretext of being sick, she lay on her bed and would take neither tea nor rice. Liu Hong returned to the mansion and questioned her. "When I was young," said Lady Yin, "I vowed to donate 100 pairs of monk shoes. 5 days ago, I dreamed that a monk demanded those shoes of me, holding a knife in his hand. From then on, I did not feel well." "Such a small matter," said Liu Hong. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" He at once went up to the governor's hall and gave the order to his stewards, Wang and Li, that 100 families of the city were each to bring in a pair of monk shoes within 5 days. The families obeyed and completed their presentations. "Now that we have the shoes," said Lady Yin to Liu Hong, "what kind of temple do we have nearby that I can go to fulfill my vow?" Liu Hong said, "There is a temple of Gold Mountain here in Jiangzhou, as well as a temple of Burned Mountain. You may go to whichever one you choose." "I have long heard," said the lady, "that the Temple of Gold Mountain is a very good one. I shall go there." Liu Hong at once gave the order to his stewards Wang and Li to prepare a boat. Lady Yin took a trusted companion with her and boarded the boat. The boatman pulled it away from the shore and headed for the Temple of Gold Mountain. We now tell you about Xuanzang, who returned to the temple and told the abbot Faming what had happened. The next day, a young housemaid arrived to announce that her mistress was coming to the temple to fulfill a vow she had made. All the monks came out of the temple to receive her. The lady went straight inside to worship the Bodhisattva and to give a great vegetarian banquet. She ordered the housemaid to put the monk shoes and stockings in trays and have them brought into the main ceremonial hall. After the lady had again worshipped with extreme devoutness, she asked the abbot Faming to distribute the gifts to the various monks before they dispersed. When Xuanzang saw that all the monks had left and that there was no one else in the hall, he drew near and knelt down. The lady asked him to remove his shoes and stockings, and she saw that there was, indeed, a small toe missing from his left foot. Once again, the two of them embraced and wept. They also thanked the abbot for his kindness in fostering the youth. Faming said, "I fear that the present meeting of mother and child may become known to that wily bandit. You must leave speedily, so that you may avoid any harm." "My son," the lady said, "let me give you an incense ring. Go to Hongzhou, about 1,500 miles northwest of here, where you will find the 10,000 Flowers Inn. Earlier, we left an aged woman there, whose maiden name is Zhang, and who is the true mother of your father. I have also written a letter for you to take to the capital of the Tang Emperor. To the left of the Golden Palace is the house of Chief Minister Yin, who is the true father of your mother. Give my letter to your maternal grandfather, and ask him to request the Tang Emperor to dispatch men and horses to have this bandit arrested and executed, so that your father may be avenged. Only then will you be able to rescue your old mother. I dare not linger now, for I fear that knave may be offended by my returning late." She went out of the temple, boarded the boat, and left. Xuanzang returned weeping to the temple. He told his master everything and vowed to take leave of him immediately. Going straight to Hongzhou, he came to the 10,000 Flowers Inn and addressed the innkeeper, Liu Xiaoer, saying, "In a previous year, there was an honored guest here by the name of Chen, whose mother remained at your inn. How is she now?" "Originally," said Liu Xiaoer, "she stayed in my inn. Afterwards, she went blind, and for 3 or 4 years did not pay me any rent. She now lives in a dilapidated potter's kiln near the southern gate, and every day she goes begging on the streets." Once that honored guest had left, he was gone for a long time, and even now there is no news of him whatever. I can't understand it. When Xuanzang heard this, he went at once to the dilapidated potter's kiln at the southern gate and found his grandmother. The grandmother said, "Your voice sounds very much like that of my son, Chen Guangrui." "I'm not Chen Guangrui," said Xuanzang, "but only his son. Lady Wenjiao is my mother." "Why didn't your father and mother come back?" asked the grandmother. "My father was beaten to death by bandits," said Xuanzang, "and one of them forced my mother to be his wife." "How did you know where to find me?" asked the grandmother. "It was my mother," answered Xuanzang, "who told me to seek my grandmother. There's a letter from mother here, and there's also an incense ring." The grandmother took the letter and the incense ring, and wept without restraint. "For merit and reputation," she said, "my son came to this. I thought that he had turned his back on righteousness and had forgotten parental kindness. How should I know that he was murdered? Fortunately, heaven remembered me at least in pity, and this day a grandson has come to seek me out. Grandmother, asked Xuanzang. "How did you go blind?" "Because I thought so often about your father," said the grandmother. "I waited for him daily, but he did not return. I wept until I was blind in both eyes." Xuanzang knelt down and prayed to heaven, saying, "Have regard of Xuanzang who, at the age of 18, has not yet avenged the wrong done to his parents. By the command of my mother, I came this day to find my grandmother. If heaven would take pity on my sincerity, grant that the eyes of my grandmother regain their sight." When he finished his petition, he licked the eyes of his grandmother with the tip of his tongue. In a moment, both eyes were licked open, and they were as of old. When the grandmother saw the youthful monk, she said, "You're indeed my grandson. Why, you are just like my son, Guangrui." She felt both happy and sad. Xuanzang led his grandmother out of the kiln and went back to Liu Xiaoer's inn, where he rented a room for her to stay. He also gave her some money, saying, "In a little more than a month's time, I'll be back." Taking leave of his grandmother, he went straight to the capital and found his way to the house of the chief minister Yin on the eastern street of the imperial city. He said to the porter, "This little monk is a kinsman who has come to visit the chief minister." The porter made the report to the chief minister, who replied, "I'm not related to any monk." But his wife said, "I dreamed last night that my daughter Jiao came home. Could it be that our son-in-law has sent us a letter?" The chief minister therefore had the little monk shown to the living room. When he saw the chief minister and his wife, he fell weeping to the floor. Taking a letter from within the folds of his robe, he handed it over to the chief minister. The chief minister opened it, read it from beginning to end, and wept without restraint. "Your Excellency, what is the matter?" asked his wife. "This monk," said the chief minister, "is our grandson. Our son-in-law, Chen Guangrui, was murdered by bandits, and Jiao was made the wife of the murderer by force." When the wife heard this, she too wept inconsolably. "Let Our Lady restrain her grief," said the chief minister. "Tomorrow morning I shall present a memorial to our Lord. I shall lead the troops myself to avenge our son-in-law." The next day, the chief minister went into court to present his memorial to the Tang Emperor, which read, "The son-in-law of your subject, the Zhuangyuan Chen Guangrui, was proceeding to his post at Jiangzhou with members of his family. He was beaten to death by the boatman Liu Hong, who then took our daughter by force to be his wife. He pretended to be the son-in-law of your subject, and usurped his post for many years. This is indeed a shocking and tragic incident. I beg your majesty to dispatch horses and men at once to exterminate the bandits." The Tang Emperor saw the memorial and became exceedingly angry. He immediately called up 60,000 imperial soldiers and ordered the chief minister Yin to lead them forth. The chief minister took the decree and left the court to make the roll call for the troops at the barracks. They proceeded immediately toward Jiangzhou, journeying by day and resting by night, and they soon reached the place. Horses and men pitched camps on the north shore, and that very night, the chief minister summoned with golden tablets the sub-prefect and county judge of Jiangzhou to his camp. He explained to the two of them the reason for the expedition and asked for their military assistance. They then crossed the river, and before the sky was light, had the mansion of Liu Hong completely surrounded. Liu Hong was still in his dreams when at the shot of a single cannon and the unisonous roll of drums, the soldiers broke into the private quarters of the mansion. Liu Hong was seized before he could offer any resistance. The chief minister had him and the rest of the prisoners bound and taken to the field of execution, while the rest of the soldiers pitched camp outside the city. Taking a seat in the great hall of the mansion, the chief minister invited the lady to come out to meet him. She was about to do so, but was overcome by shame at seeing her father again, and wanted to hang herself right there. Xuanzang learned of this, and rushed inside to save his mother. Falling to his knees, he said to her, "Your son and his grandfather led the troops here to avenge father. The bandit has already been captured. Why does mother want to die now? If mother were dead, how could your son possibly remain alive?" The chief minister also went inside to offer his consolation. "I have heard," said the lady, "that a woman follows her spouse to the grave. My husband was murdered by this bandit, causing me dreadful grief. How could I yield so shamefully to the thief? The child I was carrying, that was my sole lease on life that helped me bear my humiliation. Now that my son is grown, and my old father has led troops to avenge our wrong, I, who am the daughter, have little face left for my reunion. I can only die to repay my husband." "My child," said the chief minister, "you did not alter your virtue according to prosperity or adversity. You had no choice. How can this be regarded as shame?" Father and daughter embraced, weeping. Xuanzang also could not contain his emotion. Wiping away his tears, the chief minister said, "The two of you must sorrow no more. I have already captured the culprit, and I must now dispose of him." He got up and went to the execution site, and it happened that the sub-prefect of Jiangzhou had also apprehended the pirate Li Biao, who was brought by sentinels to the same place. Highly pleased, the chief minister ordered Liu Hong and Li Biao to be flogged 100 times with large canes. Each signed an affidavit, giving a thorough account of the murder of Chen Guangrui. First, Li Biao was nailed to a wooden ass, and after it had been pushed to the marketplace, he was cut to pieces, and his head exposed on a pole for all to see. Liu Hong was then taken to the crossing at the Hong River, to the exact spot where he had beaten Chen Guangrui to death. The chief minister, the lady, and Xuanzang all went to the bank of the river, and as libations they offered the heart and liver of Liu Hong, which had been gouged out from him live. Finally, an essay eulogizing the deceased was burned. Facing the river, the three persons wept without restraint, and their sobs were heard down below in the water region. A yaksa patrolling the waters brought the essay in its spirit form to the Dragon King, who read it and at once sent a turtle marshal to fetch Guangrui. "Sir," said the king, "congratulations, congratulations. At this moment, your wife, your son, and your father-in-law are offering sacrifices to you at the bank of the river. I am now letting your soul go, so that you may return to life. We are also presenting you with a pearl of wish fulfillment, 2 rolling pan pearls, 10 bales of mermaid silk, and a jade belt with lustrous pearls. Today, you will enjoy the reunion of husband and wife, mother and son." After Guangrui had given thanks repeatedly, the Dragon King ordered a yaksa to escort his body to the mouth of the river, and there to return his soul. The yaksa followed the order and left. We tell you now about Lady Yin, who, having wept for some time for her husband, would have killed herself again by plunging into the water if Xuanzang had not desperately held on to her. They were struggling pitifully when they saw a dead body floating toward the riverbank. The lady hurriedly went forward to look at it. Recognizing it as her husband's body, she burst into even louder wailing. As the other people gathered around to look, they suddenly saw Guangrui unclasping his fists and stretching his legs. The entire body began to stir, and in a moment, he clambered up to the bank and sat down, to the infinite amazement of everyone. Guangrui opened his eyes and saw Lady Yin, the chief minister Yin, his father-in-law, and a youthful monk, all weeping around him. "Why are you all here?" said Guangrui. "It all began," said Lady Yin, "when you were beaten to death by bandits. Afterwards, your unworthy wife gave birth to this son, who is fortunate enough to have been brought up by the abbot of the Gold Mountain Temple. The abbot sent him to meet me, and I told him to go seek his maternal grandfather. When father heard this, he made it known to the court and led troops here to arrest the bandits. Just now, we took out the culprit's liver and heart live to offer to you as libations, but I would like to know how my husband's soul is able to return to give him life." Guangrui said, "That's all on account of our buying the golden carp, when you and I were staying at the Inn of 10,000 Flowers. I released that carp, not knowing that it was none other than the Dragon King of this place. When the bandits pushed me into the river afterward, he was the one who came to my rescue. Just now, he was also the one who gave me back my soul, as well as many precious gifts, which I have here with me. I never even knew that you had given birth to this boy, and I am grateful that my father-in-law has avenged me. Indeed, bitterness has passed and sweetness has come. What unsurpassable joy." When the various officials heard about this, they all came to tender their congratulations. The chief minister then ordered a great banquet to thank his subordinates, after which the troops and horses, on the very same day, began their march homeward. When they came to the Inn of 10,000 Flowers, the chief minister gave order to pitch camp. Guangrui went with Xuanzang to the Inn of Liu to seek the grandmother, who happened to have dreamed, the night before, that a withered tree had blossomed. Magpies behind her house were chattering incessantly as well. She thought to herself, "Could it be that my grandson is coming?" Before she had finished talking to herself, father and son arrived together. The youthful monk pointed to her and said, "Isn't this my grandmother?" When Guangrui saw his aged mother, he bowed in haste. Mother and son embraced and wept without restraint for a while. After recounting to each other what had happened, they paid the innkeeper his bill and set out again for the capital. When they reached the chief minister's residence, Guangrui, his wife, and his mother all went to greet the chief minister's wife, who was overjoyed. She ordered her servants to prepare a huge banquet to celebrate the occasion. The chief minister said, "This banquet today may be named the Festival of Reunion, for truly our whole family is rejoicing." Early the next morning, the Tang Emperor held court, during which time the chief minister Yin left the ranks to give a careful report on what had taken place. He also recommended that a talent like Guangrui's be used in some important capacity. The Tang Emperor approved the memorial and ordered that Chen Yi be promoted to sub-chancellor of the Grand Secretariat so that he could accompany the court and carry out its policies. Xuanzang, determined to follow the way of Zen, was sent to practice austerities at the Temple of Infinite Blessing. Sometime after this, Lady Yin calmly committed suicide after all, and Xuanzang went back to the Gold Mountain Temple to repay the kindness of Abbot Faming. We do not know how things went thereafter. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter.